Hey there. It's January 2026 and we're cozying up. It's chilly outside.
It's cold. I came cozy.
I'm Tammy Coleman with Swell Realty.
I'm Liz Copeland with CrossCountry Mortgage.
And welcome. We're going to do a market Snapchat on what's coming up for 2026.
Yeah.
And, I always say to my clients, I wish we all had a crystal ball.
100%.
We really know and could get ahead of it. But we just want to give you some thoughts, some ideas of what we think's headed our way for the Hampton Roads area.
Yeah. And we get, obviously, like Tammy said, we get questions all the time. And I think this market, there are going to be questions all year because with the current administration we're under, as we know, things move fast. It's like the playoffs. So I think things are going to change and perspectives are going to change throughout the year. I know that just last week, a lot of perspectives changed.
Yes. So last Friday we hit right under 5.
Yeah.
Or right
599.
5.99.
Yep.
And a lot of phone calls came in.
A lot
of activity, a lot of stuff. I will say we're still kind of low inventory out there, but I feel like with the spring market and everything, we're going to start to see a little bit of a shift in the market. What are your thoughts? Like, I don't think we're going to have that seller explosion, that seller market, but I do feel as rates come down, if they stay down, we're going to get a lot of people that I say that have been kind of hanging back, waiting for the rates to lower. I think they're finally going to take that leap and jump. And I just feel like competition will increase as that happens.
100%. I mean, last week alone, mortgage activity was up 40%. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are now going to be buying up $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities, and that instantly put downward pressure on long-term mortgage rates.
Right.
And for people that don't know and don't understand, when Jerome Powell cuts rates like he's done the last couple months by a quarter, he's actually cutting short-term rates. And this is something I explain to my clients all the time. You and I have had these conversations. So, you'll see your auto loan rates go down. You'll see your credit card rates go down. But long-term rates don't always follow. And it's the press conference afterward that really impacts the markets that long-term rates follow. So when Jerome Powell comes out and cuts rates, but then he's super negative, we've actually seen long-term rates go up when short-term rates go down. And long-term mortgage rates tend to follow, or at least they have the last several years, followed the 10-year Treasury yields, right? And that is wildly impacted by things that happen in other countries, right? Things that are happening domestically here at home, press conferences that Jerome Powell or any member of the Fed gives, press conferences Donald Trump gives. All of that is impacting long-term mortgage rates. So when the announcement was made last week that, hey, Fannie and Freddie are going to buy up $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities, boom, without a Fed in sight, a Fed chair in sight, there was downward pressure on long-term rates, which, like I said, increased mortgage activity last week by 40%, which is huge.
Huge.
I've
had a lot of buyers contact me. They've been in their house for a while and they're ready to start that move up. Before it was, got my 2% interest rate. I don't want to give that up, but I think people are ready to kind of expand and jump. Or, some people are downsizing as well. So, we're here to answer any questions you may have. Of course, run numbers for you, look at numbers, look for, your sale, look for your purchase. And, anything that might help you along in that process. Of course, like I said, we don't have that crystal ball, but we're just going to watch the market and kind of move forward. I'll give you a little tidbit of information that's a little bit shocking. They say that the average first-time home buyer is 40 years old.
Yes.
Which is really sad to me.
It is.
I was 23 when I purchased my first home. So, I'm all about home ownership at a young age.
Absolutely.
And, it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when you're young. My youngest client was 19 and she made a lot of money on a condo that she bought in Hampton. and sold it about 4 years later and put some money in her pocket. She was so happy. There's nothing better than seeing that home ownership, goal actually happen. So I'd love to see more younger people getting in the market, jumping in, realize that it's not easy, but it's, if you're going to pay rent, you might as well pay your mortgage and pay yourself in the long run. Of course, I always say long run. I feel like you need to be in your home at least 3 years to really start making money and doing the things. But, we're here to help in any way. You got any comments on that?
Well, no, I think that's good. I mean, I always tell buyers, like, especially our younger buyers, that, paying rent's hard, paying a mortgage is hard. You got to choose your hard, right? And I'd rather choose my hard in something that I own that I'm growing equity in. And I think what people have missed is there have been so many opportunities in the last 6 years, right, to buy and to actually be sitting on a ton of equity right now that people have given up because they're scared of where the rate is. I did a calculation for a buyer the other day when we were looking at a mortgage payment, and I said, well, how many times do you go to Starbucks a week? Because she was sitting there with her Starbucks coffee. We were meeting in person, and she said, oh, like 4 or 5 times a week. I'm like, and how much do you spend at Starbucks? And she gave me the number. And once I started doing some math, I'm like, well, if you cut Starbucks back to maybe twice a week, you know what I mean? There are things in our life that we can do to kind of offset where rates are. I don't think in our lifetime we're going to see the 2% rate market again, but I think if we're going to get down at some point here in the next year or two to upper 4s, low 5s, and I think that's really going to be a sweet spot where we're going to stay. And now's the time, like Tammy said, to jump out here. Let's run some numbers. Let's see what works. Let's see what's in your budget that you might could take out to make things work. The other thing to think about too is as home prices go up, landlords jump on that train as well. So I've had a lot of buyers contact me and say, you know what, I should have bought because I got my new lease and my rent's actually going up $200. There's no rent caps in the state of Virginia. So at least when you're in your home, you're in the comfort of knowing this is my payment and within reason, unless your homeowner's insurance or taxes or something change, within reason, that's what your monthly payment's going to be.
And a new interesting trend that I actually love is I have helped 4 families purchase. They're going to turn them into rentals, and then at one time they'll give them to their kids. Now, I don't know, we've discussed different prices, we've discussed different things, but they might sell it to them at what they actually purchased and, hand them instant equity. They might just hand it over. Everybody's got a different outlook on that, but I find it interesting that people are actually really thinking about their kids and really thinking about the future of their kids, because homes are expensive these days.
Right.
So I do like that a lot of people are getting on that. And if you have any questions on that, because second homes can be a different interest rate. I'll let
a little bit different. And we, with second homes, I always tell people, and this isn't always spot on exact, but Tammy's right. With second homes, there is a different interest rate. So with second homes, kind of what I use is you're trending about 1% higher than you are for a primary residence. And then an investment property trends a little bit higher on top of that. So, I've heard from a lot of clients that are older and, maybe in their second and third home, and they're talking about exactly what Tammy's saying. And they've got the means to do it, that they are interested in buying a home that their kids can move into, that they can rent to their kids until the kids are able to qualify for a mortgage. Or so I think that the fact that homeowners are now, 40 and up when they're buying their first home, like Tammy said, that right now the average is 40 for people buying their first home. I think that is alarming to the older generations. And so that conversation is almost being like forced to have. How can we help secure this for our kids?
Yes,
absolutely. I think about it.
Yeah, it is. It's a really interesting topic. I love that people are actually opening up that conversation, having conversations. Because Because sometimes is it better to hand them cash or better
Better to
hand them
hand them a house with equity. Yeah.
So of course, I've been in the business 24 years. Seen a lot of families helping their kids, and some zero. So you're very blessed if you do have that help from your family. But I always say you're lucky because you're getting ahead in life, when you're getting a little bit of financial support to help you into that transition into home ownership. So,
and I definitely think that sometimes people, younger home buyers, they don't have all the facts that they need. They think they have to put 20% down. They think that, they've got to have money saved in the bank. That isn't always the case. I mean, right now I have a lot of first-time home buyers that are dipping into 401k and doing a 401k loan for down payment and closing costs. I have some that are getting, like Tammy said, gifts from family. We are still right now in January in an environment where we are seeing sellers that are willing to maybe pay some of the closing costs to help. A lot of military families, VA, we're getting them in homes with obviously nothing down on a VA loan, but very little coming out of their pocket, if anything, for closing costs and prepaids, because we're having, sellers do the contribution to that. Another thing that Tammy and I have done together different times as well is, sometimes you offer a little bit more on the purchase price, so that, like, if you're getting a home for $350 and you offer $360 and then ask the seller to pay that $10,000 in closing costs, you're actually financing closing costs. $10,000 is going to cost you, it's about 70 extra bucks a month. It's about $6 for every 1,000, right? So think about 60 extra bucks a month financing in your closing cost, and the sellers agree to it because they're netting the same thing. The seller's really not losing anything because you're overpaying for the house. So there are lots of different ways that we can work with you on down payment, closing costs, prepaids, to where you don't have to have 20% saved sitting in your bank account. There is no magic number. You don't have to have $50,000 sitting there.
Well, I think a lot of us grew up, like I grew up, my mom and dad kind of said, you put 20% down on your first home. Are you going to get that PMI?
Right. The PMI.
PMI. So, there is options out there. There's a lot of options if you do have money to play with, where, let's just say you've got 50,000, but you might only want to put let's say 15 down.
Right.
You can buy down your rate. You can buy down your PMI and pay it up front. So it's not carrying over on your monthly mortgage. That makes it a lot more affordable. So there's a lot of options, and that's why we're here to help, help you run those numbers, make sure you know what you're doing and getting in before you jump in. Because sometimes I say I really like it when people take their time and spend about 6 months and educate themselves through the process, really look at neighborhoods, really look, get with an agent like me. We'll sit down, we'll discuss a lot of things. Make sure you don't have buyer tunnel vision. Always talk about that. You're looking up, down, all around, not just at the pretty granite and all the things. We're looking at all the things you need to do. Instead of, some people will wait till they see that perfect home. And a lot of times they miss that home because they're not prepared. They haven't gotten pre-approved. They don't realize the cost. They don't realize a lot of things. And then they lose out on that perfect home. So I always say, even if it's a thought, it doesn't hurt to run your credit. Get with a lender, and really discuss all the numbers so you can be prepared. And of course, as rates head down, which we're all hoping they will continue on that band, when they do, that'll even help you be able to afford even more. So
it's very important to take that first step. And what you want to do, I know as a lender, my clients, like, one thing I talk to them about is the trust factor. This is the largest financial transaction in your life. You have to be working with someone you trust. You have to be working with someone that's being fully transparent. And I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to tell you, hey, we need to work on credit for a couple months, or hey, everything looks great. Let's run numbers. My job is really to prepare you and guide you through the journey, but also be there after, right? I'm working with a client right now that I closed on his home 8-10 years ago, and he's back buying another home. And so my clients tend to kind of stay with me for that reason. You build that trust, and they know I'm fully transparent. And also, you know, I always tell my clients this as well. If numbers or your mortgage is keeping you up at night, then I'm not doing my job. You need to be able to come to me and ask me any question you have. And people will say, oh gosh, I'm sorry I'm asking so many questions. But Tammy, like, if they're not asking questions, I'm alarmed.
We are
very
like,
alarmed.
Have you talked to this client? They're very quiet and silent.
Right.
Are we sure?
Right.
You know, we want to make sure everybody's highly educated. I always tell people there's not a stupid question.
No.
I do this for a living. Liz does this for a living. This sometimes is like foreign to everybody. Yeah. These numbers, these things, what is all this coming at me? Plus now I'm looking at all these homes and neighborhoods. And where am I going to live? And is this going to be a good neighborhood for my children? You know, riding bike. I mean, there's a lot going on. So you just want to make sure you're working with someone, like I say, relational. I'm a relational agent. Liz is a relational lender.
Yes.
Instead of one that's just looking for the next sale. You know, I'm very patient. Some of our clients close pretty quickly. Others, I've worked with one for 2.5 years before they closed. Slow and steady sometimes wins a race. So, you know, you've got to make sure that you're looking and you're really making a good decision. Like I always say, when you walk in a home, normally you feel that sense. Is this my home or is this not?
Yeah.
So you've got to trust those spidey senses, if you want to call them, or your instincts or your things. True. And it's also like, you know, trusting who you work with, you know. So it really does make it very important. A lot of face-to-face, a lot of meetings, a lot of things to get you to that goal of home ownership, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And one thing I've learned from Tammy that I love is when you said, look up, down, all around, because Tammy is not going to take you in a house and not give you, like I just said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. She's going to, hey, this house looks great. It's been completely flipped. Everything's all shiny and new, but what type of piping do they have? And why is this floor a little slanted? And so things I've learned from Tammy when she'll call and give me an update on how the home tours went, there are things that Tammy looks at and finds that I've really been surprised about and kind of gone, tell me more about that, because it's really important. When you're buying a home, you're so passionate about, I feel like, about the shiny, like, granite or the
walk-in closet.
Yeah, the walk-in closet or the bathroom, the steam shower in the bathroom, or whatever it is that you really just like about. But there are things behind the walls that Tammy really dives into, which I think has been super helpful for all of our clients, really.
I always say I'm not a home inspector, but I do like that I will sit with a client and let's just say there's 2 houses on the same street and this one's been flipped and this one has not. And really looking at, okay, this one does have a new roof, it does have a new HVAC, but I have a feeling that HVAC is missized, or that water heater might be missized for the home. There's certain things that we'll pick up. Again, I'm not a contractor, I'm not a home inspector, but I'll kind of, let's look this up or let's make a phone call, because this pretty one that's been updated and shiny might not have been done to standards. And we look, there's no permits pulled, there's, you know, so there's some little red flags that sometimes will show up. So I always like to be as honest and, you know, educate my client through that process. You know, I always say, hey, it says it has a new roof, but there's a leak right here on the ceiling. Well, is it wet because they just didn't kill it? Or is it, hey, there's a issue going on with the new roof? So those are things I like to do prior to actually spending money on a home inspection. But, you know, sometimes that house that might be dated is the better actual purchase for you in the long run, and it's fun to remodel a home. You know, we should be doing things.
Yeah,
I do.
She loves that.
I do.
If you want to remodel, you know,
call me. I love it. But it's not go in and gut the whole house, but like take a moment and redo the half bathroom one season, and you know, you get your taxes back and you decide to redo your kitchen. Or that's the fun part. You make it yours. You do it yourself, and there's that sense that, wow, I did this. It's silly, you know, like I joke about, I did my little fireplace hearth, me and Billy did it. And like we sit back when we actually sit down in there, but when we sit back, we're like, we did that, you know.
Yeah,
it's like
it's-
us,
yeah.
our hands, we sanded, we stayed, you know, we did it, we picked up the wood. I mean, there's something about when you sit back and do your own thing, but
No, I agree
that's
with
the
that.
fun part about home ownership that we should be doing.
Yeah.
I know it's hard because we all want pretty and just move in, make our life easy because we're all busy, but you know, it's fun to take weekends.
Yeah,
and
it is
fix stuff
fun.
out.
I feel like HGTV has kind of ruined some of that.
Yes.
Because I'll talk to first-time home buyers, and while I'm going over the numbers, you know, numbers are not as like jazzy as like the house,
Yes.
right? The numbers are kind of boring. So when I'm running numbers for them and doing things, they're also still like talking about the house,
Right.
You know what I mean? And, oh, this is what I want this, and I want that, I want this. And I'm thinking in my mind, oh, wow, this list is really growing. Like, Tammy, you got your work cut out for you, right? But, you know, I guess my question is, how do you take first-time home buyers and kind of help them through that of like, oh, I see all this on HGTV and I'm pre-approved for 400,000 and why aren't I getting what I'm seeing on HGTV? Like, how do you help them with their mindset with that?
Well, it is funny to watch that process because it's all different and everybody's different.
Right.
And, you know, with all the information we have out there, there's a lot of misinformation.
Yes.
But I think as people go out, you know, at first they're like, who's this girl? Why is she telling me all this stuff? You know?
Yeah.
But as we start looking, and, you know, sometimes the parents come along.
Yeah.
Or someone comes along and they're like, I trust her. Like, she's not just trying to sell a house. She's trying to make sure it's a good fit for her clients. So it is funny. Like, I'll point out things or, hey, let's look at the pipes, or hey, you know, they can hide this and they can do it. And I start showing people how to really do the best you can to educate yourself before you get into, you know, paying for a home inspection and writing an offer and starting the process. Because as soon as you make that offer, your mind is going, where's the furniture going to go? What are we going to paint this room? And that's why I like to, you know, I tell people it's good to get the numbers ahead of the game. So your mind is on that part. That's the fun part. That's where we should be.
Right.
Oh, what piece of furniture is going to fit there? Am I going to change these floors in this room? You know, the kids are going to fight over these two rooms. So it'll be fun. You know, that's the actual energy you should be putting once we're under contract.
100%.
Not, hey, I've got to get my tax returns. Hey, I've got to get this.
Right.
Hey, I've got to get this. Oh, can we really afford this? You've already gone through that process and worked it. But, you know, when we're looking at homes and we're doing the things, it really is just the educational part of a home, how to maintain it. I love to kind of, as we go into homes, say, you know, you want to like go through and caulk your house every 2 or 3 years and make sure, you know, water's not getting behind your cabinets or your countertops and your windows. And, you know, you don't want bugs coming in and out. And I'll kind of educate them about how important it is to get a termite warranty and do an inspection once a year. And, you know, maintaining your HVAC system, or if you have a tankless water heater, you're supposed to empty that out every year. If you have a tanked water heater, you're supposed to empty it and clean it and do all the things. A lot of people don't tell you. It's not like we have a book, a homeowner book, how to maintain your home. So that's the fun part I like to do. And, you know, I always tell people, you'll see my arms and my hands kind of go, but I want you to listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah, this is so true.
You know, and what I feel like is important, which you might not feel is important at the time until it happens. But I'll give you a tidbit. I normally get about 1 to 2 phone calls a year, even though I tell my clients, don't do this. Mulch. There is treated mulch and there is non-treated mulch. And if you go to Home Depot or you go to Lowe's and you get mulch, even though it's treated, normally we're picking it up right after it's been dropped right out of, you know, the truck that it came in.
Yeah.
So,
they have those big piles of Right.
So when they're bagged with the non-treated mulch. So you can have termites in those bags.
In the non-treated.
Yes, and then in the treated, because they'll come the little extra area into that. So sometimes when you're driving through neighborhoods, you'll see bags of mulch sitting by the driveway. There's a reason for that. You're supposed to set it out there for about 3-4 days before you actually lay it out, because eggs could be in there, little termites could be in there. And what will happen is people will lay mulch down, and then I'll get a frantic call. Oh my gosh, Jamie, we have termites. And I'm like, oh no, did you just put mulch down? And normally the answer is yes. Because we are. We're very impatient. You want instant gratification.
Yes, you do.
Oh, we got the weekend. We're going to go to
mulch everything. Yeah.
go on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Go get that mulch. Get it as far away from your house as possible. Let them work its way, and then Saturday and Sunday, lay that mulch down. Even though you're buying treated mulch, it can come in with that. So I'll give you that bit of information.
See?
But just some stuff I try to educate along the way that, learn from my mistakes.
Tricks of the trade.
Right.
Tammy's tricks of the trade. That's what that is. Tammy's tricks of the trade. I love that.
But we're here for you. We're here for questions, anything you have. Like I said, there's no stupid questions. So
absolutely. Call us. We'd love to schedule a consult with you. Our system is Tammy will typically meet with the client, do a buyer's consult, send them over to me, and I'll do my buyer's consults so we can pull numbers and actually see, what we can do. And then you go back to Tammy with your pre-approval, and then the fun begins.
Yeah, then we start hitting the road. That's the fun part.
That is the fun part.
That
is the fun part.
But we're here for it all. So give us a call.
We'd love to help you in 2026.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Oh, that was good. It was easy. Good flow.